Welcome, Dawson Botsford, to the WholesomeCrypto podcast. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Rudy.
Yeah, and I'm glad to have you here. I mean, you've created an awesome application called Earni.fi where people can type in their ETH address to quickly just see what airdrops they've missed on. I've used that myself, so thank you. It's helped me. But before we get into why you've created it and how you've created it, and even how you got into crypto, I want to know what you were doing before even hearing about the word Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Yeah, before hearing about Bitcoin, we're going back a long time. So I heard about Bitcoin first in 2014. I got into it pretty early while I was still like a poor college kid. So I'm definitely not one of those Bitcoin millionaires. But I did hear about it in college. And so yeah, before Bitcoin, I was into like startups in computer science, but I definitely was not an early adopter.
Gotcha. It's the same for me. Like, I just heard about it, but I didn't get into it. But did you have like a friend who was saying, Dawson, you gotta get into this Bitcoin stuff? Was it making sense to you when you first heard about it?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of whether I was confused or not when I first heard about it. And I don't think I was. So the person who explained it to me, he ran the Bitcoin club at the University of Colorado.
Nice.
In Boulder, where I went to college. And he was just so like, he didn't present it as, hey, you guys should consider this thing or come learn about this thing. He was, guys, this is the future. And so you have to learn about it.
This makes
is
sense.
How he presented it. He was like, this is what is coming down in like the future of technology. And so you guys have to come use this. And he gave everyone $5 of Bitcoin the first day.
Wow.
To spend at a restaurant in town. He convinced the owner of this restaurant to accept Bitcoin, like way before it was cool to accept.
Good for him. That's a hard sell too, because they're like, what do I do with this? And it's hard to convince them, teach them, and then also get them to do it. So good for him.
Yeah, I think that's the best gateway too. So he definitely got everyone like who was in the club to use Bitcoin on day one. Wow. And I actually just checked earlier today if that really old wallet I had on my Android phone had any dust Bitcoin left in it. Unfortunately, I was just so type A and I got everything to zero when I was first like transferring things out and selling. Totally missed becoming a Bitcoin billionaire for sure by like selling at the first hint of the price booming.
I feel like 99%. I'm like, I don't think everyone, actually all my guests have missed that too. That's why we're all in here together, not like running away in some island on a yacht. We're like, we still got to work, but we love the tech. That's the thing. It's like, we're in it for the tech, right? We love this technology and what it's doing for us. So it's awesome still. So you were saying you were in college, you were studying computer science?
Yeah, exactly. I was a CS major. Mm-hmm. And so I was already doing code. Definitely didn't learn anything about cryptography yet. Hadn't learned anything about making websites or web apps yet either, which websites and web apps are definitely my expertise now. Mm-hmm. And that skill set has allowed me to build Earni.fi. But back then I was at the very beginning of my computer science education.
Nice. And were you always into tech as like a kid? Is that something you are passionate about?
I've definitely always been a nerd. I was the kind of nerd who had like every size Rubik's Cube from 2x2 to 7x7.
Nice.
Definitely played games a ton. Gaming was kind of the start of coding for me. I used to think that I was going to be a game developer, which I think it's a useful goal to start out on, especially when you're young. Because it's kind of like the gateway drug. It's like how Bitcoin's the gateway drug into the rest of crypto as well.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I can totally relate to that because gaming was my thing. I also thought I wanted to build games or do something on the internet at least. But yeah, here I am doing podcasts.
And do you still game?
I don't anymore. For me, the whole point of gaming was to have all my friends over, play some N64 or play some PlayStation 2 and like just shit talk to each other and like play. Especially like Super Smash Brothers. That was like the best game, but not anymore. I don't want to, I don't know, something about having my friend next to me and like fighting that way. It's a lot more fun than just remote.
Yeah, I understand that because I hard quit video games at the end of high school, right around this college time where I was like, okay, to actually learn this stuff and learn how to code, I need to be more focused on it, and gaming fell to the side for sure. But hopefully there's a resurgence with play to earn gaming for me in the future.
What were your like first apps or programs you were developing?
Yeah, the first thing I ever made was in middle school. There's a guy on the school bus, one of my friends in my neighborhood, who he was like a gigabrain for sure. I'm surprised he's not like leading Ethereum development at this point. Uh, I don't think he's gotten the crypto pill yet, but he was a really good programmer just in middle school even. And he showed me that I could do a couple things with my TI calculator. So this was like the Texas Instrument graphing calculators. This is actually the origin story I found out for a lot of developers within like my age range, because that actually had a full programming language. It was Basic. Mm-hmm. Basic is the name of the language. And with that, you could create programs to cheat in class. You could create programs to like run geometry functions. So I made like this master geometry one that was like everything we learned in 7th grade geometry. And it was devious because you could easily share the same way. You just plug in a USB-C or whatever it was back then.
I wish
it definitely wasn't.
I wish schools were like, wow, we should really support your creativity, not like shame you for like doing something bad. But it's like you're learning geometry, but it's so boring. You have to like challenge yourself a little bit harder by cheating.
Yeah, no, spot on. The cheating part was trying to be like under the table for sure. And actually, I've always been quite a rule follower. So I was not the one cheating, but I think 95% of the people who got the program from either my calculator or my friends' calculators, they definitely used it. And when the ACT, SAT came around and I heard of people using it then, I was scared.
That's dangerous,
like, I've created a monster.
That's all right. It's education system could use a little revamping anyway, so it's fine. So then, I mean, that's awesome. Like, it sounds like you're just loving this. You're just loving tech and you're loving programming and developing at an early age, and it's definitely paid off now. And as you're hearing about crypto more and getting into that space, what kind of, I know you said you were learning from your friend in college, but what kind of got you into really putting your own efforts into learning more about it?
Yeah, so there was a down period actually at the start of my college time, which I should probably mention for folks who are getting interested in the more technical side. It's not all rainbows and butterflies, especially in the beginning. Sometimes it can be really difficult to first start learning a new language, like programming language, or like a whole new idea of like, how do I make websites? This whole idea of websites is like actually several languages you'll have to be familiar with. And so for me at the start of college, I actually considered leaving computer science. It was so dry and boring the way that the university presented it. But my savior was my sophomore year, I discovered hackathons. And for folks who don't know, hackathons, they're not hacking. It's not security. It's like a build marathon is almost the name of it, or like an invention marathon is what I call them. It'll be like 24 or 36 hours, usually overnight, 1 or 2 nights. Just tons of coffee and cookies and pizza.
Just get hopped up.
Get super hopped up. I saw someone once down 15 Red Bulls within 24 hours. And I was like, this person might go into cardiac arrest. Luckily, they were completely fine.
Ugh.
But it's like all the best parts of the hyped up young energy when you first start coding, put into a room with 500 other people who are also hyped up and learning. And by the end, by the end of the 24 or 36 hours, you realize that computer science can actually go build really cool stuff.
For sure.
And that's a revelation that not everyone has when you come into the university route.
Yeah, that's for sure, because that makes sense. And like whenever anyone asks me like, how do I get into programming or development? I'm like, have a project in mind. You need to want to build something. Otherwise, learning is so boring. I can read all the literature on what JavaScript is and different functions and different ways of creating code, but I would never understand it unless I had something to like strive for. So it's definitely awesome that you went into hackathons early on. I wish I did that early on, but never. Yeah,
anyone who's considering it as well within the Ethereum space, there's a lot of hackathons. ETH Global is the organization that puts on one every 2 months. It's a massive opportunity. They're online as well, so you can do them from anywhere on the planet.
Yeah, that's highly recommended too. And then, so how did your hackathon trips go? What did you do? And I think I saw your profile. You actually organized some too. So could you give us a little more about that?
Yeah, for sure. I went full force into hackathons. I saw hackathons as the solution to boring university. And so I brought hackathons to my university first because there weren't any. I was in the Mountain Time Zone in Colorado, and in the Mountain Time Zone, there's only one other hackathon at that time for college students, which now they're so pervasive. Like there's multiple in Boulder itself now. There's more than one at the university, let alone the surrounding universities. So yeah, from like North Dakota all the way through Utah and down, there was none.
Wow.
So I decided to organize that, pulled in 2 friends. We all co-founded it, and I spent my college time barely doing coursework, mostly I was always coding and building, but it wasn't for university.
Yeah. That's amazing. It's like, I'm glad you went through that, because I think I wish like myself, I've never been to a hackathon, and I've been to hackathons, but I never participated in them. And yeah, that's an awesome way to get your creative energy out.
You ought to come to a hackathon with me.
Let me know.
Yeah. I've got plenty looking out in the future to sign up for, so it'd be fun to team up.
That would be. Yeah, I can at least record some stuff for us. So then you got into these hackathons, and as you were, honing in on your development skills, how was your interest into crypto developing during this time?
Yeah, during college, towards the end of college was when Ethereum launched. So in 2015 was when the very first testnets and mainnet launched. Or maybe the mainnet was 2016. But either way, I remember viewing it and watching this happen on GitHub, because my first ever projects on GitHub were like little Bitcoin trading scripts.
Oh, cool.
But back then, to trade was just actually a call to a centralized exchange, because there was no DeFi. Yeah. Everything was centralized. The only thing you could do decentralized was transfer. But even to transfer, you had to have a trusted intermediary to say like, okay, you should transfer now. So yeah, back then I was doing like little trading scripts. And when Ethereum launched, I was like, oh, this is huge. This is going to be big. And then I read it. I read their documentation website and was like, I have no idea what this means. This stuff does not make any sense to me. And so as I was reading that documentation, I saw some spelling errors. I pull requested. I just tweeted this last week. I found my pull request from 2015 to ethereum.org. It was like before the mainnet launch. And that was it. I did that, and I disappeared from the crypto scene for 3 to 4 years.
Wow. So,
because I was like, it's not ready for me yet.
Were you watching it for those 3 years?
I actually blocked it out and tried to ignore it because I missed the price boom. And then I had a lot of time where I was jaded. I was really against crypto. And I would even tell people to stop telling me about it. And my friends just kind of knew, like, don't bring up Bitcoin, don't bring up Ethereum around Dawson. Because for them, they were like, guys, look, I just 10x'd my investment, my speculation, my trade in like whatever it was, 1 month or 2 months.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I get it, guys.
It always happens.
Over and over.
It happens to everyone. It happened to me plenty of times too. So that's part of the ride.
Yeah, it's part of the ride. And I did come back to it though, luckily.
Good.
And now, as you can see, I'm pretty involved and interested in this space.
I'm happy you are, because you're definitely not only just being part of it, you're contributing, which is the most important part, is having a community that contributes in any way they can. And so then what were you doing for those years that you were absent then? I know you've also had kind of like consulting for development, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I went through a huge journey where I was trying out something new every year. So out of college as a university grad, I was an engineer at Uber. So I really did the Web 2 thing hard, like loved the Web 2 funded companies. I interviewed at Airbnb,
nice.
Had friends there. I worked at Uber, had friends at Facebook and Pinterest, and just super interested in the Web 2 thing. Almost like as it was starting to become disliked in society. People forget that back then Facebook wasn't the devil.
Yeah, people like Facebook was a place to work. Amazon was a place to be. Pinterest, all those. Google was like, you're at Google. Wow, you're an awesome person. Like, you just no idea what you do there, but you're awesome for working at Google for some reason.
And even Uber, Uber was like, dang, you're an engineer at Uber. But I was actually there during the duration when the lawsuits happened and the CEO got fired and all the harassment stuff was happening. Wow. And so I started to see that I got jaded. I started to just not feel like I was very happy in the workplace there. And so every year I switched. So after a year at Uber, I was like, no, I need to make social impact. Went to a healthcare company that was helping folks with clinical trials in cancer.
That's
I was
awesome.
like, okay, now I'm changing the world. It was like, my goal was always, I want to be changing the world. And after a year there, the company had some management issues and I moved on. The company went under anyways.
Good timing.
But yeah, good timing. And as I was nearing the end of that though, I was like, I've got this goal of being a digital nomad and being a traveler.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the 4-hour work week.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. For anyone who like this idea interests you, that is the Bible, that book. So I had read the 4-hour work week for like the third time. And then I was like, this is actually my goal. I've been putting it off and I feel like I'm wondering whether I'll ever be this kind of person. The kind of person who can go travel and be like without a home for the fun of it though, for the like by choice. And I did. And it was amazing. I went 1 year entirely outside the US. I went around the world west.
Awesome.
And just met tons of cool people. That's when Ethereum came back. And that's when crypto came back into my life.
Wow.
Through getting out of the San Francisco crypto scene and getting into like the Australia crypto scene is actually so legit.
I wish I can experience that. That sounds amazing. So then I guess were you like stumbling upon it because of just of course, developers, programmers, they're going to speak into crypto at one point or another. And I guess that's what you kind of were attracted to. So while you were traveling, was it just kind of like, oh, more people are talking about crypto, let me look back into it?
Surprisingly, it didn't actually come across my radar through developers again. So all my programmer Web2 friends, there's a huge like wall somehow between like even my technical Web2 friends who are only interested in crypto in the investing capacity. None of them discussed or understood DeFi or Web3 things. And so that was kind of sad in that I didn't get that exposure through being in San Francisco of all places. That's supposed to be the tech epicenter.
Yeah, surprising.
Yeah, but San Francisco, at least in 2018 and 19, was not the epicenter for crypto. And maybe there's some tech companies there now, but yeah, back then I had to actually leave San Francisco to rediscover crypto.
Wow. And Australia was definitely one of those hotspots.
Yeah, so Australia's got a community where a lot of folks are builders. There's also a big tie there between effective altruism and like nonprofits and how that relates to giving and charity and crypto. Like all that is one idea there, where there's like some of the folks leading that, like UBI and like distribution of aid through crypto. It's super cool.
That's amazing. That's beautiful too. I mean, that's what crypto is supposed to be about and what we're supposed to strive for, not like going on Twitter and everyone's like shit talking on NFTs and Bitcoin versus Ethereum versus Solana versus this. It's like this price is not. This is new tokens supposed to 10x and investments and all those yield farming. I'm like, you guys are just milking it. And I mean, we're humans. Humans are going to find ways to take advantage for whatever they need for themselves. So it is what it is. But as a community, I think Ethereum is doing a great job reinforcing public goods, helping each other, and incentivizing those. So I'm glad that's there. I hope it keeps continuing too. And so during your travels, how else was it going? Like, was it starting to unlock more doors and different mindsets for yourself?
Do you mean, I'm curious what you mean within technical or non-technical capacity. Like what kind of
both
venues do I want to go down? Because it was a massive life change duration.
It's definitely both, because it does change your personality too, because you are open to so many different things. Like I took like a 2-month travel trip and that was eye-opening for me as a human being. I'm like much more open and open, not just to like with myself and opportunities, but like with people and understanding, you're just a traveler. You're just someone trying to make friends, or it's like, because I always grew up in a city. I was always had that more like off-putting, I'm walking here, don't bother me. So now like from my travels, I'm like, people are being people and we should try to make friends wherever we can and however we can. So that definitely opened me up. So like, and yeah, you were saying that you were slightly jaded from the crypto scene because everyone around you was, oh, I 10x, I 10x, but not everyone's in the same boat. So I'm sure that might have changed your mindset a little bit, but I'll let you explain to me.
Yeah, the main mindset shift I had was that I was actually getting, you mentioned just now that crypto jaded I was. I was also tech jaded and just kind of like young 20s jaded. Because in San Francisco, also all my friends were the same age. 75% of them were men. It was just like this really, really like bubble of homogeneity of like the same kind of person. And so traveling was massive to get out of that and stay out of that. It wasn't just a temporary vacation. It was like, I'm going to go full into this. And it wasn't even, I'm going to stop at a year. I never even said that at first. I said like, I am now a nomad.
That's awesome.
And when I left my place, I was like, this is it. So I rediscovered and found like other joys within my life as well outside of tech. I became a yoga teacher. I took off completely from coding for 2 months. And yeah, it's 200 hours of training to do that. So it's like 1 month full time. Are you also a yogi by chance?
My fiance is a yoga teacher and she has her own yoga business. So I can definitely connect you too.
So I'm sure you've been pulled in a bit too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as much as I can, but it's fun.
Yeah. So I discovered like taking care of my body and health is something that's super critical to me. And that I'd have to like find that passion and pursue that passion on my own, because other folks around me within the technical space, especially, are not going to be the ones to push me to push me harder in those areas. So I have to find that from within and then be self-disciplined because I was alone and traveling all the time. So I had to find my own gyms or find my own space to do yoga as I traveled. And I stayed super consistent for that whole year while I was all over the place.
That's amazing. And that's absolutely right. Because like you're saying at the hackathons and the tech industry, especially what you're saying, like the industry has like mostly males who are geared towards programming and tech and the digital life. They completely let go of their physical life. You can't drink 15 Red Bulls at a hackathon. You should not do that. Like, I know you love that stuff, but it's also, there's got to be some type of balance between mental health, physical health, and digital health. Because we're becoming into a world where it's so intertwined. I can't go anywhere without internet. It's hard because you might get lost or you need to translate something. It's so part of our everyday lives. But it's also destructive too if you are falling into the traps of different social media algorithms.
Yeah, like I definitely learned that myself while doing this as well, that having less is better and not rely on those things. So I stayed with my laptop and phone, but I actually traveled with a 45-liter carry-on for 6 months as well. That was all that I owned, which for folks that don't know, that's the max size of a carry-on. So it's like, that was everything I had. And that was an incredible experience. I recommend everyone do that if you can. Yeah.
That's amazing.
It like really changes your life when you're like, oh, this shirt looks interesting, but actually I don't have space. Or these shorts, these shoes, like nothing. You have space for nothing else unless you get rid of something.
And it feels good to have less sometimes. A lot of times.
Yeah. Because then I feel like you make more memories and you connect with people better when stuff's out of the way.
Yeah, that's absolutely. It gives you more mobility too. You don't feel stuck. I love that. So now that you're traveling, you're coming back to America. What's going on through your head in terms of building, getting some type of income and renaming yourself?
Yeah, so during the time where I was nomading, I did actually, after yoga, after 2 months of that yoga that I mentioned just now, I did do Web 2 consulting. So I wanted to have real income as I traveled. And I didn't want my career to fall off. So I actually took some pretty committed and dedicated consulting jobs. I was leading tech teams and that kind of thing while traveling for Web 2 companies. But then towards the end of that, I was like, no, I want to get towards something that aligns with my values better. And so that's when I got into crypto. Had to spend a bit of time discovering the EOS community. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that blockchain.
I remember that. Yeah, that was it fell over.
Yeah. Yes, it fell over. For folks that don't know, that's the TLDR. It was the biggest ICO of 2017. And then the blockchain is basically a crawl at this point. It's still mining blocks, but there's like close to no big apps on it. And so through that process, I think I was kind of a weird one at that company because I was an ETH head, just like almost an ETH maximalist at the wrong place. Because I'd be like, oh, Ethereum's a solution to all these things. And it was like, we're not an Ethereum company. But I found a way to do a little bit of Ethereum at the end of my time there. And then, we're getting towards like the start of Earni.fi, which is like the craziest, like 7 days basically of my life of how it started, which I can get into in a second.
Everyone's ready for this. So hold your breath.
I'll make you hold your breath while I take a sip of water. Okay, so the order of events here is really tricky. So I stopped working at the company I was at. I'll leave them unnamed just because of historical reasons. But the EOS company, I left on a Thursday night. This Thursday night of the Super Bowl in 2021.
Wow.
So this was during COVID, but COVID was starting to lift a little bit in some places. So, Super Bowl's on Sunday. So Thursday night, I leave that company. Friday's my first day as a free man again. And I'm at the very end of the ETH Global hackathon, one of the hackathons I just mentioned. Theirs are a month long, but I was at the very last 2 days of it. And I had been lazy and didn't even start my project. But I've been thinking about it. I was like, airdrops are pretty important. Airdrops need to be checked. I'll go into airdrops in just a sec. But basically, I was like, I need a way to check my addresses for airdrops. Mm-hmm. So I was like, why don't I compile a list of all the top airdrops and just make a search input, a text box. Yeah. You put in your address and it searches you. And I could do it in a 1/10 of a second because I know the right web techniques for this. And back then, there was only 5 airdrops or 6 airdrops. So I put all 6 on a page. I submitted it. I did the entire project in 48 hours. And it wasn't even 48 hours nonstop. It was like I did the minimum choices around everything to make just an MVP to get it into the market and test it. And then Sunday night of the Super Bowl, I submitted it and made a really viral tweet. Like I was not a big deal. I was 200 followers on Twitter at this point. And my like tweet with the screenshot and GIF, there was confetti falling of like, these are all your unclaimed airdrops. It just went insane. It has over 1,000 likes now. Nice. It's got a bunch of retweets, and that was the start. So like literally the moment I was allowed to start being a free agent, making my own things, it happened to hit success, which it looks like that was just maybe luck or something that I could repeat again. But I think it was the preparation of 10 years of hackathoning.
Absolutely.
To know how to win that hackathon. I also won ETH Global. So it's like this knowing how to win a hackathon is actually a great thing to also know how to start a company. Yeah,
you made your own luck. That's the thing. It's people say there isn't luck. It's your development and your skills that you've gained over the years that made you lucky, because you can be lucky.
Yeah, it's a great point of view. I think it's Tim Ferriss who says, like what we should be doing is trying to increase the surface area for luck to land on.
Yep.
Because luck lands at the same rate for everyone. But you can increase that surface area to get more lucky opportunities.
Absolutely. And congratulations, man. It's a really good feeling. So Earni.fi is awesome. I mean, I like it a lot. It's super easy to use. And I was sad I didn't hear about it earlier, because that always is a question in my head. I'm like, I'm wondering, did I miss anything? Because I can't keep up with all this ETH stuff. So
yeah, there's so much news out there, and you need something like Earni.fi to check you. Mm-hmm. I could go in the background real quick of what airdrops are and like why you might need a tool if that's useful.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Yeah, so the website we've been talking about this whole time is called Earni.fi. It's what I've made, EARNI.fi. So Earni.fi. And what it does is it checks you for unclaimed airdrops on your addresses. And the catch is that, so airdrops are thousands, like hundreds or thousands of dollars that you have. It's for you. It's like you have the key. Just having your address is the key. But the lock is just out there. And to know about it, to go claim an airdrop is something that you have to actually pay attention on Reddit and Twitter for, because Ethereum gas costs mean that the projects don't send you the airdrop. They put you on a list and you have to come to them. So coming to them and knowing to come to them used to be doable when there was 5 airdrops. But even then, some people didn't see that. This was back when there was just Uniswap and 1inch, just a couple other small ones. But now with all the co-op tokens and all the airdrops that are out there, there's over 1,250 assets on Earni.fi that get checks your address for them in under 10 seconds. And that's something that like computer science now allows us to just give you the answer.
Wow.
Is there something that you should go claim?
How do you how are you notified of these airdrops? How do you know they exist?
Yeah, I get notified by doing the hard work so that you don't have to.
Thank you.
I watch Twitter, I watch Reddit. I have really dedicated customers, like folks who use Earni.fi since the beginning,
Wow.
who I reward through kind of like an unofficial bounty program. And the reason I don't advertise this bounty program is because there's so much spam in the airdrop space. And there's another thing why you need something like Earni.fi. The word airdrop can mean something really quality, like the ENS airdrop.
Yeah.
It could be like 10 grand to change your life. Or the word airdrop could be this really spammy retweet 3 times, share with 5 friends, join our Discord, join our Telegram message, and all this marketing fluff. And that's the stuff that is my biggest pet peeve in crypto.
Oh.
It's people using the exact same word airdrop for these things that are completely different.
Then you definitely answered a question I was coming up. What is your crypto pet peeve? So dive into that. Yeah. So that marketing ploy is used endlessly, and bots pick it up. I don't know who picks it up, and that is really annoying. And how do you? When did you start? Did you like start seeing those and then build Earni.fi, or was that kind of like was that any type of trigger for you to build something like this, or to come afterwards?
Yeah. So my pet peeve didn't actually make Earni.fi like this, the spam issue that we're talking about. Actually, I didn't see until probably 3 months into making Earni.fi. And maybe Earni.fi was a part of the problem in that if I'm going to alert people of this stuff, then other people, just like a lot of eyes came onto this idea of airdrops. When there's a lot of eyes, attention is money in crypto, especially. And so that's when anything that has a lot of spam, it has a lot of, like, crypto has a ton of spam because it's not as regulated, but it's also really easy to take advantage of people. And so if anything, these spammers actually just made Earni.fi much better.
Yeah. Because
people see this as the place to find the quality information. Like up to this point, I've never put on a false spam, like a bad airdrop. I do like unofficial contract audits on my own every time they come out, which, like liabilities out there, like I'm not a smart contract developer. Yeah. I've shipped one to production before, and I don't claim that anything's perfect that I like approve. But yeah, it's really important to have someone slightly technical, at least, glazing and like glancing at these things to make sure that you're not being taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm. And the rise of POAPs have been amazing too, because they're an awesome way to claim some rewards and proof of attendance protocol. So it's also a fun way. I think I found a few for myself from ETH Denver because I was there, and that was awesome. Okay. But is Earni.fi now your full-time dedication? Do you have any other projects in line?
Yeah, Earni.fi is definitely more than full-time now for 14 months. Nice. Just past 14 months, so a year and 2 months. But Earni.fi itself is like a conglomerate now of more than just the website you see. There's a really large open source push. I'm funding and paying for part-time developers even working on the open source code.
Nice.
And those open source projects are things I have extremely strong conviction of need to exist within crypto. And yeah, some of them, I can explain what they are and why the world needs them. But yeah, I say my work is probably 50-50 right now between the Earni.fi website and the Earni.fi like systems, and then the open source software.
Nice. Yeah. And I feel like that's what I'm also really glad about Ethereum. It's the push for open source and how everything is open source. And if you want to use Ethereum, you're forced to be open source for a certain amount. But I love that you're pushing for that too, because that's needed. And I'd love to hear more about like what hopeful projects you have in mind that are going to contribute or we can expect to see in this space.
Yeah, the biggest thing that you can expect to see and already exists from Earni.fi is there's a JavaScript package I'm making called Essential ETH. And what Essential ETH is it does what Ethers.js and Web3.js do, but it does it in 10 times less code. And so to do it in less code is critical for emerging markets and slow internet connections. But even for people on fast internet connections, Amazon did a research study recently. For every 1 second that their page loaded slower, 10% of people dropped off.
Wow.
So even 1 second makes a huge difference.
That makes sense. Everything is so instantaneous now. It's hard to even imagine. Even like loading a movie on Netflix, it's instantaneous. It's if you look at the file size, it's probably a couple gigabytes. And if you wanted to download a couple gigabytes, it'd be a while. But the way they have the streaming and buffering and all that stuff, and same with YouTube, incredible. But sometimes their videos don't load, but their ads do, which is weird.
Yeah, your point there is really spot on. Like Netflix and YouTube have video coding developers, like inventing first of their kind compression algorithms to bring stuff to you faster. And there is no one except for me that I know of working on making the Web3 bundles smaller for everyone out there. Like outside of my project, I'm working on shareable libraries that are going to be making everyone's Web3 websites way faster.
I'm excited for that because I'm not a strong developer, and that's something I would definitely need to help myself get into this space a little bit faster.
Yeah, I love, and that's the goal. Like target audience is folks all the way from junior to like production ready senior developers. I do what's called dog fooding in the crypto space. Mm-hmm. So that means that phrase comes from like eat your own dog food if you're a dog food factory, which is like test your own products. Yeah. And so everything that Essential ETH has going live is used in Earni.fi. So just about 2 hours ago, I deployed like the newest function that I put onto Essential ETH in Earni.fi. And like from the second that goes live, there's 10 to 100 requests per second going through it.
Wow.
So like I'll know if something's broken really fast.
That's amazing. And yeah, how many people do you have like a GitHub download amount? Do you know?
I'm not sure yet. No, it's on. I don't know the numbers. It's definitely at the beginning of an inflection point.
Nice.
So about a week or two ago, it got 30 stars within 1 week. But that's the start. I do think this will become a massive project, and it is also like a massive roadmap. That it's probably 40 to 50% of the way through. I don't have the roadmap documented yet, but yeah, it's like a partially complete product for sure.
Amazing. And now that you're spending all this time in the space, the crypto world, I need to know, what do you do outside of crypto and outside of development? How does Dawson use his downtime or want downtime?
Never downtime. So I definitely have had less downtime as I've gotten really into Ethereum. Mm-hmm. It's almost like there's a phrase that the bankless guys use called crypto brain, where it like takes over your brain. I very much suffer from this, but nonetheless, I still think balance is incredibly important. So I do yoga often, as I mentioned, but I'm also a competitive CrossFitter.
Oh, cool.
So I'm very new to CrossFit. I'm not a high level athlete at all, but I compete in competitions. My girlfriend and I go together, or I go with friends from the gym. And yeah, so I train like 5-6 days a week. And then lots of times on Saturdays, it'll be a full day event.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard of those events, and it's always like a great community. That's always the thing, right? It's like finding a great community that has like openness, like-mindedness, but also diversity at the same time. Because you don't want everyone thinking exactly the same as you, but it's like the core values that are important, which is being open-minded and inclusive. So I love that.
Yeah, none of my CrossFit friends are techies, so it's definitely diverse in that way.
Are you that crypto guy for them?
Oh yeah, I'm the crazy. Like sometimes at the start of class, I'll just explain this like really advanced concept, and they're like, "Please stop."
That's how I am too, man. It's like I'm the crypto guy. Well, I was the crypto guy at my other job, and I'd have to explain to them like, "No, this is gonna be great. It's gonna be the future. Like, trust me, this is what's gonna solve." And they're like, "Okay, sure, you go ahead and do that. We'll stay here." I'm like, "Oh,
yeah.
Why don't you believe me? How much?"
We understand you. It's okay.
It's like, why does it have to go 10x before you think of something about it? It's like, doesn't have to 10x. It's the technology behind it. But
yeah, we'll keep fighting this good fight now. No. Podcasts like this spread the word by actually getting the technical details, and I like that.
I want to know also, one of my favorite questions to ask is, what is your favorite wholesome crypto moment? Something that feel good crypto moment that you've seen happen.
Yeah, so To go back to the beginning of my Ethereum journey, I think the folks that pulled me in, that's the biggest wholesome crypto moment that I'm personally attached to, because I went to EdCon 2019, which is the Ethereum Developer Conference. And at that, there were some strangers that I just met. I had met them that week who like kind of took a gamble by pulling me onto their team. And at the time I had no Web3 skills. I knew how to make websites and that's it. I knew how to make like a pretty looking website. And so like this era is like right after Uniswap first launched.
Okay.
So the idea of like a really simple UI with like an input here and just like one button, maybe, it was like all the rage. So I kind of like, I took that UI design and like changed it up a bit, but this team, what they were doing was that they were making a custom ERC20 token wrapper for emerging markets for doing UBI.
Okay.
So like distributing universal basic income with Ethereum. They were doing it all the way back in 2019. And the project we made got used the very next week in like the Asian South Pacific region on one of their test sites.
Wow.
So to have like, the way it would work is that they have all these people in the community that are receiving funding from a nonprofit. Like a nonprofit's already trying to distribute money. That's the like premise.
Okay, that's where they get it from.
To distribute money is actually really difficult. You gotta have people in person. You have to have, there's a lot of sanctions as well. What's legal for them to spend it on. It turns out with crypto, you can do all this. So the grocery store was the person who could redeem. You redeemed with them. And then the grocery store would just take that token and unwrap it with the website we made. And so the nonprofit would wrap it and then it would send out. And then the grocery store would sell it back like to the nonprofit basically for the actual local currency. And just like the wholesomeness of me being a hacker first time. And then I know that my code like actually got used out there was so cool.
That's an amazing
And then
feeling.
I was hooked.
I
was like green pilled is the phrase that they use now.
Yeah. I love that. And it's exactly like Gitcoin and all them are doing the green pill thing. And I appreciate that a lot because there's so many awesome projects that are on there and deserve to be funded. And the best way to fund other than getting VCs is communities. So I love that. I wish I was more applicable in the States because we have it pretty easy in terms of transferring money between one another. Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, bank transfers, Facebook Messenger Pay, like it's almost like free flowing money, but it's like this type of technology I think is hard for Americans to really appreciate to its fullest, as in money transfer. It's not so easy to transfer money in some countries or trust their government that their currency will be good the next day or valid or, inflation, all that stuff. So this tech is really useful monetarily and it's a technical side of it. And as Americans, we're always looking at, how can I profit from this? But we're also, I'm glad like it's definitely creeping up in terms of creating like public goods with this, and it's being more developed. And I think now the states are opening up to that type of thought process faster. So I'm excited to see how that keeps growing. And but I think this tech is quickly booming for other countries too, and we're going to have to adapt with it.
Yeah, I think we need to adapt with it. What you just hit on is spot on in that we don't really have some of these problems locally here. And that's even more reason why I think the Ethereum community is such a global one. It's because if you've just been in the US and you don't ever leave, you don't see these problems. And so I think even the Americans who are within the crypto industry, a lot of us have experienced international things. Like you said, you did 2 months traveling, I did a year traveling. Like it's there's a massive overlap between travelers, nomads, and crypto. Because I think you see how money is different everywhere when you do that.
Exactly. Just there's it goes back to your original point. It's like that homogenous mentality of everyone's thinking the same way. So like the American mindset versus the global mindset, it's a whole different thought process to think those different ways. I mean, I love America. I'm not bashing on it. I'm happy to be American. It's a great country.
Great place.
But
it's got good and bad things.
Things.
I definitely don't bash on it anymore the way I used to.
But it's just like a thought exercise for the listeners, you know? But yeah, I mean, thank you so much, Dawson, for sharing your story. I mean, I love what you've done. I think what you've started off and where you are today is a huge accomplishment, not just for like yourself, but also like sharing it with others to hopefully do the same thing and build with all their heart, to build what they love to do and feel good about it and share that feeling with others, because I'm craving more of that. You know, I want more public goods and more use with blockchain.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I'm super big fan. Like it's funny you mentioned Gitcoin. I'll mention real quick. I feel like I'm trying to do an internal version of Gitcoin because I cannot survive on Discord to keep up with these DAOs.
You can't. It's too much.
So instead of that, I take the income from Earni.fi, and part of that is going directly back to me on a one-on-one relationship working with a developer to build the things. And it's the same kind of thing. It came from a private good originally. Like Earni.fi is a paid, for some visitors at least, it's a paid resource, but that's still going back to the community. And that's a story that I haven't gotten to tell until today. And so hopefully I can continue to tell that part of the story more, in that the premium subscription fees for Earni.fi are going out back into the world. And these projects will definitely make a difference in the world. I have 100% conviction that Essential ETH will be a part of that story.
I love that. That's amazing. Thank you so much for building Earni.fi. Thank you for sharing not just your knowledge and your skill sets and development, but also sharing the wealth you've gained from those skill sets to give others a chance to keep building. And that's how a strong economy is created. And it is little by little. And it's definitely going to get recognized. And I'm excited to keep watching you do your thing.
I appreciate that, Rudy. It's been awesome to chat.
Thank you. See you, everyone.
Cheers.